Hi, today we're going to talk a little bit about house wrap. Now, there's been a lot of house wraps out on the market, and there are the types that you find at big box stores, kind of what we would call more of a budget level house wrap. And then there's something that is going to not only to help to keep some of the wind down and some of the elements out, but also help to facilitate that water getting away from a house. Now, this happens to be my garage. So I'm experimenting on my own house. Actually, we've been using this for years because we know that it's the best. So it's really not experimenting. What it really, if you look here, look closely, this has these lines that are textured. These little parts that are rising are help to make it so that it stands off of the actual building structure a little bit. The reason why these are always installed in the vertical fashion is because that's going to help to facilitate any moisture that gets behind the siding to get away. Now, there are a couple of different things that we're doing here because this is an area that has issues with moisture. This is we're not going to put a gutter on this building. So and you'll notice that it doesn't have a real big soffit. Here it is out in a February day. We've got some icicles hanging off of the roof. We do have, actually we have about a 5 or 6 inch soffit, so that's going to be good to get air in. But you'll notice that with the height of this building, that it's actually taller than the house wrap itself goes. So you'll notice that top piece, there's actually this section of the house wrap is overlapping the bottom piece. That's effectively flashing the upper piece of house wrap over the lower, so that if any water gets behind there, any moisture gets behind there from whatever, the inside of the structure, maybe because a car is parked in there, and here in Wisconsin there's oftentimes a lot of ice and snow that gets caught up behind the mud flaps of a vehicle. So that moisture has to get out. So you need to start to think about how are you going to manage your moisture. House wrap is a great way, not only for efficiency purposes, but actually one of its primary roles on a garage type structure like this is actually to make sure that the water and moisture isn't an issue. But what we did here is we took it a couple steps further. First of all, you'll notice we use the cap staples on this job because I knew that this job was going to end up going all winter. We don't do vinyl siding in the middle of winter because when the saw hits it, it tends to break and crack. And even if you can make it work, you end up having other problems associated with a winter install because it's as contracted as it's ever going to be. So it will be extending or expanding out because that's what a vinyl siding does. And you don't want it to push against any of the trims where, for instance, around a door or at the corner piece, when those temperatures get up to the 80-90 degree temperatures. But what we did here is we actually put, on this build, we actually put ice and water along that bottom. And we put an additional piece of flashing there on the bottom so that when water drips off of the top and it splashes up, it won't soak into the wood. Then the ice and water went over that, and then it sticks to the plywood, and then of course the house wrap. Now, when you're choosing house wraps, it's important to go ahead and look at what works for your zone. Here we're in the northern zone in Wisconsin. Moisture tends to be an issue, but we also want to do our best to keep air out. Now, one of the things that is kind of an interesting fact about how the finish is around the doors and the windows is sometimes a company will, along that top, they'll take that house wrap and they'll kind of bring it into the window. Now with this type of house wrap, that can actually create a problem. And it did on one remodel that we did. We ended up tearing it all off and redoing it right because, well, that's how we roll. But when you do bring that house wrap so that it goes in and so that it terminates, that water can actually flow in and follow the house wrap, or any moisture can follow that house wrap and then get near the top of the window and start to rot out the top of a windowsill or create other moisture issues. So what we do is we just effectively, that part we're just cutting smooth. The other parts we try to wrap those around on the outside. Also on the bottom, we want to make sure that there's a sloped sill. Now, just to give you a quick little tip on something that works great, a simple piece of cedar siding has a little bit of a slope on it. You can set that down. If you're an installer, you can set that down on a sill, and that's going to work just great to help to facilitate some of that water away. So I hope some of these tips have helped. Thanks for stopping by Energy Masters and visiting this channel. It is on YouTube. It is That Energy Guy. Talk to you soon.